Hey guys, welcome back to Tower of Fantasy. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the selector ticket. It is the most commonly asked question I am getting. Like, everyone that comes to stream wants to know. So I thought I'd put together a little cheat sheet. Now, before you even look at the screen, disclaimers. First thing that I want to talk about with the selector ticket is I recommend waiting until you go to your 80 pity before using it to avoid unnecessary dupes that you don't want. That's the first thing. The second thing is I suck at graphic design. I know that. We're going to just have to deal with what I put together. I think it's actually pretty decent, but I just know when I show other content creators how I create thumbnails and stuff like that, they cringe so hard and roll up into the fetal position and cry. It's just that I suck at these things and I know this, so you can feel free to tell me in the comments, but that is what it is. The next thing is, it is a game. You are meant to have fun. I say this in all my videos lately, but I feel like it often gets forgotten by people. Have fun. It's the most important thing. If you like a character, get that character. That's the thing. Have fun first. Also, this is one man's opinion. I am not the genius of Tower of Fantasy. I'm just dude who plays, so I'm not saying this is going to be 100% right. This is just my suggestions based on my knowledge of the game, and things that I feel like you're not going to be like crippled if you take these options that I'm going to show you. So that is all the disclaimers. Sorry, I just feel like we had to put them in there. So let's get started. Okay, DPS with Nemesis. So for this is going to be if you're planning to play as a DPS and you're going to get Nemesis. Now I've put a little goal in the corner. Now this is loose. This is just, like I said, generalized, but if you're gonna get Nemesis, you really want Samir or Crow. I think Samir is gonna be the best option for most people, so that's why I put Samir here. If you want to play as Crow, you'll see our Crow options down below. But Nemesis and Samir, they're key. Nemesis has the resonance to buff the Volt damage. Samir is just amazing for Volt damage, so that's why we've got those two. Then, because with these two, you don't have any shatter, your main shatter options are going to be King, Meryl, also Huma and Shiro. But I think for most people in PvE, it's going to be best to get King, just because, he's going to give you that DPS resonance, and he is probably the strongest damage with shatter that we have. And then for PvP, Meryl is really strong. Now, Huma is also very, very strong in PvP, so you can really take either one of them. But I put Meryl here because I think Meryl's probably just the better tank in PvE. So that's the reason for that. So Meryl's there. You can get Huma or Shiro, but these are going to be your main options. So let's take a quick look at the chart. We'll look at a couple examples and you guys should be able to go along with the rest. So DPS with Nemesis, you're going to obviously have Nemesis. So this is the row that you got from, say, your 30 pity, and let's say you got to 80 and you didn't get anything else you liked. If you have Samir, you can pick up King or Meryl with your select ticket. Keep in mind, something like Huma, if you want as well, isn't a bad option. Then if you pulled King, you want to get Samir. Now, if you pulled anything else, we'll talk about Crow at the end, but if you pulled anything else here, I still reckon you want to get Samir first because you want to make use of that resonance with Nemesis. That's why Samir is going to be the top choice above King in all of these categories, because you want to synergize with that Nemesis. Now, Crow, if you have a Crow and you want to drop Crow, you don't actually want to play with Crow, so it's like just a bad pull, then you want to get optimally get the Samir as your priority, and then King or Meryl for PvP, for PvE/PvP. Now, if you want to main Crow and you actually want to use Crow, then you just go down to King. And also with all these things where I talk about Samir, if you want to main Crow, you just pick up Crow instead of Samir. The same thing works. I just use Samir as the generalization. And then pretty much from there, it's just basically King or Meryl depending on PvE or PvP. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, when we go into the DPS with no Nemesis, it's a little bit different. So if you're going to play a DPS without Nemesis, you basically want the same core of Samir with King or Meryl. Now, if you like any other DPS, like I said, go nuts. But you want to balance out your charge and shatter values. So why I say the goal is going to be Samir with King or Meryl, because once again, they're the best shatter units in the game. But like I said, you can get away with Huma or Shiro or something like that. So, we're overgeneralizing here, but this is where we go into the who to pick. So you'll see that we don't always have Samir at the top here. Now, the reason being, obviously, if you have Samir, it's simple. You just go on to the next one. And the last member of this team it doesn't really matter. If you want to be a DPS resonance and you go with Meryl, you know, maybe go for another DPS. With King, it doesn't matter. Some decent units that you can use is something like Tsubasa. If you get it to 1-star, she's going to buff that damage. So she's really nice for it. But why I want to look at the order here is with these ones. So Crow has 8 charge, but he has 6 shatter. So Crow is a really average shatter unit. So my thought is, because you don't need that resonance, like for the beginning, you can actually play with Crow even if you don't want to, just because you have him. And then you want to pick up the Shatter unit next, because you've got a sort of charge unit, and then you want to get the Shatter unit next. And then if you're dropping Crow, you can get Samir. If you're not dropping Crow, you don't have to worry about Samir. Now, with Tsubasa, if you have Tsubasa, she has decent charge levels. So once again, you'll want to pick up either King or Meryl first, and then Samir. You don't have to. If you just love Samir, you can go for it. But this is just me trying to balance out your team in your progression to getting to the units you want to get to. Shiro, on the other hand, and King both have high shatter value. So you want to pick up the Samir, because you've already got your shatter unit. That means you want to get your charge unit before looking at the other units you have. Huma is one that you can basically choose whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. Because Huma's got good charge and good shatter. The reason I go for Samir is she has got pretty good burst shatter, so she can be like that replacement for King in the early stuff. So you can pick up Samir first. Meryl, obviously a shatter unit. You don't really want to get, with this one, you don't really ever want to put Meryl and King into the same team. They both drain stamina with their abilities. King likes to use aerial attacks. Meryl likes to spin. They both drain stamina, and they both shatter units, so they don't work in the same team. But you know, if you're trying to optimize for PvE, then maybe you can pick up King later on. And then with the 2 healers, because they're both very high charge values, that's why we go ahead and pick up a shatter unit first and then move on to the Samir. So that is the basics there. If you're a DPS without Nemesis, hopefully that makes sense. Now we're going to get into a bit simplified for the healers. So healer without Nemesis, you want to obviously pick up Coco and Zero, and then you want to pick up Shiro, Meryl, or King. Either Meryl or King is going to be optimal. Shiro is going to be if you like going into team play. Now, keep in mind, early on in this game, like dedicated healers, I feel like aren't the most necessary thing. You also want to be able to do your solo content, because you will be playing some quests and stuff like that by yourself. So I think having something like the King or the Meryl to bring some more damage, just like straight damage to help. But you know, Shiro's not bad either. These are going to be obviously a better burst units, and because if you're going with the 2 supports, you're going to have basically a hell of a lot of charge, but 0 shatter altogether. So you want to get some shatter in there. Like I said, Shiro is good for co-op because she can buff the damage of your other ally units if she gets to 1-star, and then Meryl and King are just good all-round units. So if you have Coco or Zero, your first priority is to get the other one and then look at the other stuff. If you've got Coco and Zero, you select one of these 3 with your ticket. And if you haven't got either of these 2, it's basically just, you can either wait until you pull one of them and choose the other one, or just pick one and hope the next time you get one of them, it's not a dupe. So that is healers. It's a bit more basic. Then we go on to Nemesis healing. It's fairly simple. What you kind of want to end up with is Nemesis, who you're going to get anyway. If you pulled a Samir, you can pick up either healer that you want. If you didn't pull a Samir, you can pick up either healer that you want. It doesn't matter. You can pick up either one. I kind of like the idea of getting Samir first, just for solo play being a bit easier, but it's up to you. If you're like, no, I want to have my 2 healers from the start of the game, so if there's any co-op, I can go in and be the healer. I don't know why you want to do that, but if you do, then, you know, if you didn't get anything else, you can just use Coco or Zero, and then whatever DPS you pulled from your early pulls to fill in the gaps. Now, with this team here, you're going to have basically no shatter on your team. So when I put in solo play tech, just something to consider is if you do have like a Shiro, a Meryl, a King, or a Huma, I didn't have Huma on here, or a Huma. Those are good shatter units. So when you're playing by yourself, questing and stuff like that, it's nice to have one of them in your team instead of Zero or Coco, because, you know, you don't need that healing buff when you're playing by yourself. And having one of these guys in here is just going to make things a lot easier, because you're going to be able to shatter enemies as well in solo play, because you don't need that much heals in solo play. And then the final thing we have is tanks. Your goal is to get Meryl and Huma. So if you have one, get the other one. If you don't have either, once again, you can wait until you pull one and then choose, or you can just pick whichever one you want. Once again, tanking early on in these early stages, it's not the most vital thing to have a dedicated tank. And both of these guys are very strong in just general play, so you can pick whichever one you want. So if you just pulled DPS and healers from all your pools and you've got your select ticket, you can just pick whichever one you want and hope to get the other one by the time. Hopefully you'll have a bunch more summons by the time you get to raiding and stuff like that, and you should have the other one. But you know, tanks are fairly basic, not too advanced, but hopefully that helps you guys out. I know it's a bit of it's a hard thing because there's so many variables in this thing to get across, but that's the best job I could do. Look at that. I think my tank text is offset from my gold text. Like, I just suck at this shit. But anyway, guys, that is going to be it for the video. Thanks for watching. Hope you have an awesome day, and I look forward to seeing the next one. Cheers.